for some of the form of those that had run here. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot better line on the firsters than I do as a clocker. I just kind of go by what I'm seeing in times and connections. So let's talk about under contract.
Yeah, it's hard to – you generally don't make a first-time starter the favorite unless you know he's breezing well, he's got really good connections. And the buyer par for this race is 71, and it looks like it'll take a high 50s to win it. And under contract's been training like a horse. It's definitely going to be able to run par. You see Bullet Gateworks dating back to March, early March, at Louisiana Downs. He's been training great. The last work was a maintenance move from the gate, but he still beat two of his stablemates at 50 and 3. He was better than those. I have him best of 3. His dam was a grade 1 winner. Yeah. And Into Mischief's one of the great sires out there. You got our leading rider aboard for a trainer that wins with first-time starters at Oaklawn. I mean, he wins with firsters everywhere. So under contract, I didn't want to see him bet this heavily, but it probably means they really like him, and the competition, like you said, is a little bit suspect. It's not weak, but it's not as strong as you typically would see.
Going to be a good day. Was a little bit green at Will Rogers. John Lees mentioned that in his call, and I went back and watched the race, and I thought, yeah, very much so. He was very good to pick that up because he was closing ground at Will Rogers on May 13th, and just kind of ran up behind a horse, and he'd shy from the whip a little like you might expect, but he made a nice rally. 8-7 Magic to me is running out of chances for me to pick him very high. But, Asmussen won a couple of races yesterday, and he's off to a good start today at Churchill, so his barn is always to be respected. I'm glad you mentioned streaming the dam of under contract. She was 2 for 4. She won her debut for Baffert and then came right back and won the Hollywood Starlet the last year at Hollywood that it was conducted in 2013, and that was always a great 2-year-old filly race late in the year that frequently attracted Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winners.
Yeah, and if you like the race at Will Rogers for going to be a good day, just do note he's had 3 really good 5-furlong breezes. So this horse is coming into this race, on the uptick.
Yeah. Race 2. I see this as super wide open the way I look at it here. $10,000 beaten claimers. That means that there's a condition attached. It's not just a straight $10,000 claiming tag. I wish they'd come up with a different term than beaten. But nonetheless, I think this is super wide open. I mean, the morning line favorite is what? 7-2?
Yes, I think so.
So, when you make a horse, and you're the line maker, when you make a horse 7-2 on the line, that's a statement from Rick Lee that this is a really wide open race.
Yeah, or confusion on my part. It's one or the other. This was that type of race. I took Marquee Lady, typical of a race where I think almost all of them have a chance. I'm not going to take who I think will be favored. This horse could be favored, but I think 4 or 5 of them could end up being favored. It just depends how the money starts to go. The things to like about Marquee Lady is shifts from Will Rogers Downs, where ran okay, but those were open races. This race has a condition, 9 winners of 4, and has, so it's a condition claiming race. You look last year, was a clear winner in a maiden special weight race right here at Lone Star Park. I like that. Ran very well at Remington, and consistently competitive in the 9 winners of 3 condition. Maybe, she didn't care for Will Rogers as much, but nevertheless, some really nice breezes, 4 straight 5-furlong breezes over this track where we know she likes this surface here, and a return to her Lone Star of last year, a Remington form, we'll put her right there at the finish.
Yeah. It's interesting that she started to beat up on Oklahoma breds at Remington last year when she got very good. Then this spring, they ran her an open 15,000 claimers at Will Rogers. I don't know if maybe Oklahoma bred claimers didn't come up in the book or what, but Francisco Bravo elected to run her against Open Company, and she was reasonably competitive. I think she factors a lot in here. My top pick is God Knows Why. Trainer change from J.R. Caldwell to Mindy Willis, not a claim, just a trainer change. God Knows Why is proven, or proved at least last year, that she can beat Open Company. She beat Texas Breds here in a romping maiden win at a low level, then came back at Remington and beat Open Company twice in a row. And this is the first time since that little win streak that she's dropped. She's been in first level T-bred allowances ever since. Not with a great deal of success, but nonetheless, new barn, picks up Elliott. A few things to like there. But there's, really you could make a case for a whole bunch of them. Yep. And we got another Bob Young comebacker. I mean, he unveiled that second ID a few weeks ago.
He did.
This Anna's Dream has Gulfstream Park form, and pretty good Gulfstream Park form if you go way back. And comes back off a year layoff. I don't really care for her that much, but the work seemed to be pretty energetic.
Fast start, but like I've said before up here, Bob, he works his horses in the morning. So his horses generally have fast works, but they've been running really well this year. I mean, Bob's off to a really good start.
He is. There's a bunch of others that have opportunities. I mean, we both have Okie Bling second. Comes off a win last time at a low level. Could be a sharp filly. So, Race 3. Fillies and mares, 3 and up. No scratches here. These are maiden claiming $7,500 price tags, and they're going 7 furlongs.
Yeah, and we don't get a lot of Santa Anita form here on just in a normal maiden claiming race.
True.
And Wishful Winker, gets the nod. High percentage rider, exits a narrow defeat as a strong favorite at Santa Anita just on June 6th. Has moved into a barn, having a good meet with limited starters. I certainly like that. I like the maintenance work just to get this filly acclimated to the surface. She's a 4-year-old filly now, and, if you can't win at 7,500, things aren't looking good. She has been consistent. That's another thing to like. In her sprint races, she runs her race, every time.
Yeah.
And I think that'll probably be good enough, but we shall see. At this lower level, consistency is usually not at a premium.
That is true. I took her too. To me, she was kind of an easy pick. Kind of a safe pick, too. I mean, very unlikely, our second pick. Making a big drop warrants the drop. But as far as Wishful Winker, I went and looked up that restriction on that maiden claiming race. And because there is no substantial racing anymore in Northern California, there's a provision on some of these maiden races. That race she ran in on June 6th was for horses or horsemen who were primarily Northern California-based since the 1st of 2024. So they're attracting horses from there, or started for a $20,000 claiming tag at some point. So a couple of restrictions on that maiden race. At least, it worries me she was 3-10 and ran second, but at least it was a halfway decent second. I mean, she was only beaten a half length, was well clear of the rest, and now she tries the local gang.
Yeah, very unlikely. It's interesting. Never sprinted. This filly has never sprinted. And this is a type we usually talk about who should like 7/8 of a mile.
Yeah.
A front-running router, cutting back to 7 furlongs. So, very dangerous there. And then we didn't mention really Bougie Like, who did finish second at this exact same level, at this exact same distance. So, it'd be hard to dismiss this 5-year-old mare.
That's true. And very unlikely, has always been on the turf except for one race that was rained off the turf. And, now she's at a level where we don't run them on the turf here, so we'll see how she does on the dirt. Race 4, scratch number 2, Lavender Will. That leaves a field of 10. These are Texas-bred maiden claiming fillies and mares. $6,250 is the claiming tag.
Yeah, we got same trainer, back-to-back races. The 5 Girls Don't Cry. Ships in from New Mexico. Been obviously running against open rivals there. This race is restricted to fillies bred in Texas. Got to like that. 6 1/2 furlongs, so kind of had that extended sprint distance experience last time out. Opened up a lead after stalking the leaders and then got run down late. A really nice race. I like the 2 local works here. I like the switch to a high percentage rider. If she can maintain that form here over this new surface for her, then she deserves favoritism.
Yeah, she's not a filly that I'm going to be racing to, necessarily go make large win bets on, but at least she exits a good race. I mean, she did blow a lead in the stretch, but, it was her second try at an extended distance. the trainer is a high percentage trainer. He claimed this filly back in the winter. Has had very modest luck with her, but at least she's coming out of a good race. No Moro here. The 4 certainly merits a lot of contention. Jalen Clary has 2 in here. She's really had a tough meet. Ran a good second yesterday. She hasn't won yet in the meet, but has won in the past. But she's looking to break out of a season-long drought. And, I mean, this filly could potentially do it. But I'm going to give the New Mexico Invader a shot as well.
Yeah, the Buyer par is only 37, which is our lowest Buyer par we have at Lone Star Park. And Girls Don't Cry ran a big 38 last time. So
she beat the par.
She beat the par. None of the others have.
She birdied it, I guess you could say. Race 5, the first of our turf stakes, the Chicken Fried Stakes. This is an odd race. I'll explain why. Number one, there's no super on it anymore. Scratch the 2, who I was really looking forward to seeing. I actually looked at a couple of races from New Mexico to see her.
Wow.
8 for 14 lifetime. Scratch the 2, Preciosa Zafiro. Scratch the 3, Texas Red Bell, and the 5, Kaylee's Sister. Other than Uptown Bling at home, there's really not much turf sprint form in this race. This does not necessarily look like a turf sprint field. And yet Uptown Bling at home, neither of us picked her on top. She's the only one that has kind of identifiable turf sprint form.
Yeah, this is a race where I did have her the favorite at 3-1 because, again, it was a race where I think many of them could have won the race. I went with Mischievous Gal just off a really, really sharp recent form on the main track. In the Memorial Day sprint, that was a terrific effort as well. Has won 7 of 13 on dirt. But, I know, back up, this is a turf race. 4-1-0-1 record on turf. All 4 were routes. So, she's gotten so good sprinting. And, again, her turf races were around 2 turns, and she showed ability then. I just feel like she's going to handle turf. She just was at a distance. She didn't care for her. In the good forms you can be, you got her, top rider, Ramon Vasquez aboard. I think she's going to hold her dirt form is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I have her 4th, which I think was a mistake, or not a mistake, but an error in judgment on my part. I think with those connections and her sharpness and the fact that she's coming out of a really strong third to 2 really nice mares, I probably should have had her higher, but I'm kind of a homer for Miss Code West. I've been to the place where she was bred. I've seen Code West, who's a really nice thoroughbred in the flesh. Miss Code West has been a tremendous Oklahoma-bred filly. Kevin Scholl's done a great job with her. Coming off the bench since December, only her 2nd turf try. Her other one was on this race date, the Turf Festival date a year ago on the Ouija board. And I'm sorry, it wasn't on this date. It was on Sexton Mile days when we run the Ouija board. And she was up the track that day. But she's been good since. I think she can sprint. She certainly started her career sprinting very sharply before they stretched her out. I'm hoping to get a little bit of a price on a filly that I think is really, really nice. Certainly among Oklahoma breds, she's basically unbeatable.
And she runs really well fresh. I mean, you look at the last 2 times she's been fresh, I mean, she's run terrific races.
That is true.
And she's training lights out. It just, and like my pick, her only turf race was around 2 turns, so we don't know, but she'll run good today. I'm quite sure of it. The safe bet's Uptown Bling at home just because, she 10 times she's been in the exact in 14 turf sprints. So
this may be us picking against long-legged Laverne as she wins her 22nd race of her career.
Yes.
But still, Uptown Bling at home merits a tremendous amount of respect. And, but we're trying to mix it up.
Yeah, she's the one that finished 2nd last year in this exact same sprint.
That's right, the chicken fried to Overcharged, who unfortunately passed away, but man, was she a sensation.
Oh, yeah, as quick a horse as you can be.
God.
Amazing.
You talk about a turf sprinter.
Yes.
On to the 6th. Maiden claiming 20,000s, 3-year-olds and up. 5.5 furlongs the distance. Scratch number 11. Follow me if you can.
Yeah, Night in the Quarter kind of reminds me a little bit of that cheap, really speed horse I picked last week. And you didn't care for the horse all that much, but I told you at this distance, it was like a 5/8.
Oh, and that horse whistled.
It was 4.5 even, but this is
yes,
5.5. I get it.
4.5.
There's somewhat of a comparison here.
Yeah, I didn't like the horse until I saw him or her win by like 5 lengths, and then I realized you were right.
Yeah, he'll have to stretch out to 5/8 though next time,
yeah.
so may be in trouble. But Night in the Quarter has lost big leads in last 2 starts and finished second and third. I mean, good races. Back on the main track after a nice turf sprint. Was claimed by Todd Fincher, who decided after a really, showing a lot of speed in that race at Oaklawn Park to try the turf here. Kind of got a softer turf course. You don't usually get that here, and this horse did fade late. Now back to the main track. You see the June 15th work, after that turf sprint race, 46-4. I wrote down the split, 21.93 for the first quarter. This horse did get a little bit gassed. I mean, I'll have to admit that. The last, 16th of a mile, this gelding was thinking, who's working me right now? This is a little ridiculous. But nevertheless, a very sharp work. If you bet on him, he's going to open up a lead, 100% guarantee of that. It's just a matter of will he hold on. And this is, not the strongest field, but horses like this, when they lose, they beat themselves. They just go out too fast. They don't rate. If he learns to rate, he could end up being a good claim.
Yeah, for sure. Now, it's a wide open race, though, behind the favorite, who we both took. When your second pick isn't on my top 4 and my second pick isn't in your top 4, that's when you know it starts to get a little wide open. Mm-hmm. Give me a who. Second time Lasix, your second pick is a horse that was at this very level last time and in with Night in a Quarter and Gypsy Mischief and, made up a little bit of ground. And second off a layoff, second time Lasix. Mm-hmm. Your pick makes a little more sense than Two Blondes and a Bar, who's my second pick. But more than a cruise, the dam of Two Blondes and a Bar was a minor stakes winner, made $260,000, won 4 races. And this horse has a few drills. They're not necessarily fast, but Hebert does reasonably well with firsters, and I'm going to give him a shot in a race where the ones that have run, except maybe your second pick, really haven't shown a whole lot. I'm not sure why your second pick didn't make it into my top 4.
Yeah, I was thinking he might prefer dirt over turf just based on that one turf race, and he probably needed the race. And Joel Mar, he's starting to pick things up a little bit. I still think he'll finish well the last 3 weekends, and nevertheless, it's that type of race.
Yeah, some interesting. And, of course, we have one of the best bred horses in terms of sire and dam you'll ever see in this race. I got to point it out, Bernardo, by Bernardini, American Classic winner from Achado's in the Hall of Fame and made almost $4 million.
Right.
Did Achado win here in the Breeders' Cup? I'm not sure of that, but don't hold me to that. But she's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So, but unfortunately, Bernardo has not picked up some of those traits. On to the 7th. All older horses in this one. 5/8 on the turf, the Grand Prairie Turf Sprint. Good race here.
Yeah, very good. Usually wrong. I'm going that direction. He's been a win machine. He's won 5 out of 6 races. Started his career doing great. His only loss was at Keeneland, and he was 30-1. I mean, how good did that field look on paper, I wonder? How could this horse, after those first 2 races, have been 30-1? But nevertheless, a strong 3 together. Diodoro decided to try turf at Evangeline, and he whistled, ran a really fast race, enters in the Chamberlain Bridge. He got 4-1 that day, and he ran down a really fast group that afternoon, and now he's in the Grand Prairie Turf Sprint. Maybe a slight upgrade to a lateral move here. I don't think this field's any stronger, so I think if he breaks a little bit better, because if you look at his previous 5 races before the Chamberlain Bridge, he was dueling for the lead or very close to the lead. This race, I didn't look at the start of this race before I came down. They probably should have. I don't know if they outran him early, if he just didn't leave there running. But nevertheless, he showed versatility, which is big in this sport. So usually wrong. I think is the one to beat, but there's several in here that can win.
You know, I have Jackman's Ride second. You have High Front, who's making his local debut second and has proven to be a really nice turf sprinter. Jackman's Ride's a horse that I almost automatically pick just because he's so game and so fast. In that other race, the Chamberlain Bridge, I've watched it since it happened, but I don't remember either. I don't think he had any major, usually wrong, had any major start trouble. There was a horse named Go Sugar, I think was the horse's name, who just caught a flyer out of there. Jackman's Ride broke well in that race as well, and I think they just kind of outran him early, and he is a horse that is, like you say, usually up on the engine, but I love the fact that he, usually wrong, was able to just take it in stride and say, okay, I'm not in the lead, but I'm still going to run these guys down. That's a unique horse that can do that. A couple of others to look for. I mean, I think Halmstad is about as sharp and tenacious as a horse you can find. You know, he had a nice turf sprint win at Houston. I threw him in there for third. There's a lot of contention in here behind. There's just a lot of contention in general.
Yeah, I took High Front second because his synthetic record isn't very good. So if you look at races at Turfway, his last four, I mean, if you draw a line through those and look at his Keeneland and Saratoga turf sprints, those are super good efforts. And June 7th at 47-3, the back half of that work was the fastest final quarter I've got this year.
Wow.
You know, 23-1 turn time. So I think this horse is super sharp at this moment and back to his game, turf sprinting. I didn't think the public would go for him as much. I put 6-1 just off the layoff. I think he's the overlay in the group today.
On to the eighth. Tough call in here. $20,000 non-winners of two claimers. Scratch number 3 was my original top pick. One for the ditch. Scratch the 5, Blame to Stoops, and scratch the 8, G. Eric.
Yeah, Copper Storm has been, I mean, he's been claimed in back-to-back races from the Asmussen stable, you know, to Austin Gustafson. Now, you know, Abel Ramirez Rodriguez claims this horse. You know, Abel and End Zone kind of made my line look bad in the first race last night. I don't forgive people for that.
Horse. I mean, I picked that horse, but I could not believe the way that horse went down to odds on.
Yeah, he got hammered. I mean, we had a contender scratch, but he still got hammered. I mean, he
especially
still
late
been
too.
Then he won for fun.
He did win for fun. That's true.
So
but,
you know, I'm not going to let him do that. I'm picking in this way. So I'm hedging my bet. But this horse comes off a nice second place finish at this exact same condition. It seems like this barn moves horses up. They don't have the name recognition of some others that win national races, but this is a stable that just wins races. And
End Zone is running away with the owner title. He's going to lap the field. Broberg is on that. And, you know, the outfit, because Abel's been with them a while.
Oh, yeah, long
You know, they
time.
win so many races. Like you say, they don't get the national recognition, although Carl did have a string in New York and Chicago for a while and Kentucky. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, compared to some of the more nationally known names, Abel isn't yet up there. But, this horse could be one that, you know, I'm afraid he might be a little overbet. But, I mean, his form is really good.
Yeah, and if you look at any of those races at Houston, Remington, Oaklawn, you know, if they can get back to that, then he's going to be tough to beat. And 6.5 furlongs probably in his wheelhouse because this 4-year-old gelding likes to finish. So, you know, I think he's the one to beat. The Mystification's got the biggest buyers in here by far. If you look at just his dirt races at Santa Anita, those turf races, especially the last two, kind of muddy up his form. So, you know, he's an interesting horse. I wouldn't let him go up to 5-6-1 off those recent turf races. He's going to offer great value if that happens.
He's also a first-time gelding, Mystification, if you like to follow that. Race 9. Okay, we have a sizable jockey change in terms of a big name that I didn't know was going to be here. Race 9, Texas Turf Classic, $250,000. Mile and an eighth on the grass. Umberto Rispoli is not going to make it in to ride today. So number 1, Stay Hot. Make the rider Mike Smith. That's an interesting jockey change.
Yeah,
Mike Smith has 2 mounts for Rispoli today, another one later. So Mike will do.
Yeah, that'll get it done.
Yeah.
One of the clockers said Mike Smith was here today, and because I handicapped these races a week ago, I wasn't sure exactly who he was riding.
Yeah, picking up the mount for Rispoli.
Yeah, good. I'm not losing my mind then, because I didn't remember him being on a horse on this card. But anyway, this is another tremendous betting race. It's so wide open. Gigant or Gigante?
Well, technically, the word is gigante,
Gigante,
which means giant in Spanish.
Okay.
But I'm going to see what Travis Stone and our boy John Dooley said at Churchill and Fairgrounds and follow what they said. They might say gigante. I'm not sure. We'll see.
I mean, this horse, I like him today. You know, at a price. One, he's a millionaire, so he certainly have a lot of back class. He's been competing in graded stake races. Even though this is a really good field, it's an ungraded race. Was beaten in neck in a grade 2 this spring at Fairgrounds. You see a win in the DeBartolo, which always comes up really good at Fairgrounds in December. 5-time winner on turf. Last 2 races was not on Lasix. I feel like that may have hurt this horse a little bit. So back on Lasix, has the class been competing with a little bit better than these. You usually don't get Steve Asmussen in our local stakes at 6-1. I think this horse will be 6-1. So that's where I landed.
Yeah, it's a good point. There's a lot of talent in here. I went with Stay Hot. More Santa Anita form. It seems like we have an unusual amount of that. Yeah. He's on Lasix for the first time ever. He has never raced on Lasix in his 13-race career. He's another one that loves to run fresh. He ran a really strong second in the La Jolla off a few-month layoff last year out of Del Mar. He won a race, the Baffle at Santa Anita back in 24 off a little freshening. He gets first Lasix. He is a graded stakes winner. He's never been on Lasix. It's a very deep field. I'm going to take him after that little 3-month layoff. Creative Minister is another one that I like. I mean, I just thought his turf win here 2 outs ago, it was against some of the best older turfers we have, and it was strong. He has a lot of back class, and I think he might be a nice turfer. I didn't use Camore Bino Amoide, but he's back on Lasix. Couldn't get a much sharper horse than him. But I think it's odd that last year he followed a romping win here on the dirt in this very race, in the Texas Turf Classic, set the pace and ran a decent third.
Yeah.
But I didn't work him into the picks. I think what say the
defending champion
who did win this race last year, he could, you always have to respect these Mike makers.
I'm a little confused by last year. This horse was 9-5 favorite and won the race. Based on buyers, he's actually better coming into this year's race, even better than last, if you only looked at the buyer figures. I mean, he came into this race in the high 80s and won last year at 9-5. Now he's running in the low 90s at his fairground races and ships in here. He may just love this course.
He might.
If he runs that race he ran last year, then he'll be flying down the stretch.
Yeah,
this is a very competitive race, is my point.
That's a great race.
Yes.
On to the 10th. $7,500 claiming non-winners of 2, 5.5 furlongs, scratch, number 5, wave after wave.
Yeah, I mean, the 7 double ride for really strong connections. It's taken a significant drop in class. This horse broke his maiden at Oaklawn Park this year in wire-to-wire fashion back in February, was in strong optional claimer, was not disgraced at all, tired very late in that March 21st race, and then returned again in a condition claimer at Oaklawn April 25th. Once again, setting fast fractions, finishes third. Was claimed by Present Connections, who decided, let's try a turf sprint. Was very one-pace, didn't seem to care for that too much. Now back on dirt, taking this significant drop in class for our leading owners. It's his race to lose, I think. I mean,
yeah, by far. I mean, he outclasses them, certainly fig-wise. If you just kind of, average them together a little bit with the big drop. And, he did run very evenly last time. That was a much better field of, turf sprint specialists. It's going to take a bit to beat him, I think, in here.
Yeah, and Ruggles, just draw a line through that last race, and you'll see that his allowance buyer figures earned at Houston, put him in the same ballpark as Double Ride. So I think probably a 2-horse race, at least on paper.
Yeah. On to the 11th. All older fillies and mares. a high five race, 3,556 in the carryover. There are not any scratches out of this. Mile and a 16th on the turf, named in honor of the great Wasted Tears.
Yeah, and I got Neon Beach wheeling right back after a very impressive win in the Ouija board. It earned a really strong buyer figure. Now, that race you get cut down to a field of 5, so you got to take that into some consideration. But that was such a powerful effort from this filly. And you also find it interesting, if you go down and just highlight every race that she's been on Lasix, you see win, close third, and a win. I mean, she appears to be the type that prefers to run on bleeder medication Lasix, draws the rail to save what ground she might need to save. Again, runs that race back, and they don't always run the same race back. You know, she's going to be tough to beat. It was a yielding course that day, too, and it's going to be anything but yielding. Our variant was very fast for the turf races last night, meaning the surface was super fast last night.
Yeah.
Unlike it was when they went 25-49 for the half in the Ouija board.
You know, I'm going to go with the 12, Stir Crazy. Mike Maker's ship in. She's another one like Neon Beach that likes Lasix. Clearly, Stir Crazy, you know, if you look back, her previous 4 races were on Lasix. She won the first 2 of those. She also ran a really bang-up second at Keeneland on the turf on Lasix. So she likes Lasix just like Neon Beach, and we have the same top picks, just switched. Stir Crazy really seems to relish the turf. I mean, it's by far her best surface. Mm-hmm. I don't love the 12 hole, but going a mile and a 16th, Morales should be able to get her into some kind of a trip. There's a bend obviously coming out of the chute, but she might be a little wide, but she's consistent. Neon Beach, the way she finished in that last race was unbelievable. I mean, it was very, very good, and she's really, really solid. Eric Asmussen has been riding her, but he's in Kentucky today to ride for Steve, so Keith picks up the mount. They kind of switch places. I'm curious about this Super Yvonne. I picked her 4th so I could mention her. Never been on turf. Her dam was, a Parks Penn National type filly that could run a little bit. Protonico, the sire, never run on turf, but she's 12 for 21 in Mexico. Runs in their grade 1s. I'm just curious to see how she
curious.
does.
No turf pedigree to speak of, but,
we'll see.
But loves to win races. And so we shall see, and we got another Santa Anita. You said Mike Smith on the 9?
Yes, number 9 Vibes will be Mike Smith, and first outside Southern California for her. And I'm worried a little bit. She's been fractious in the gate twice in a row. Might not have a big factor.
She has speed, and this course, is really fast right now. Her only bad race was in a grade 1 American Oaks. If you look at the rest of them, if you look at the rest of her turf races at that mile and 16th, a mile distance, very consistent.
Yeah. We used to run the American Handicap at Hollywood on July 4th. I don't know how old the American Oaks is. Santa Anita does run some old Hollywood races. I don't know if that's one of them, but yeah, you can forgive horses that maybe have a sputter in a grade 1. But that's a really good race. The stakes are really competitive.
Yeah, they're stellar.
All right. Well, we're a tiny bit behind, so I'm going to work my way upstairs.
It's going to take you a while.
It might, but I'm going to hustle. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll do it all again tomorrow.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Thanks a lot for looking in. 28 minutes to the first. Good luck.
In the event of an emergency, Lone Star Park is dedicated to ensuring the safety of our patrons. This video illustrates the proper evacuation protocol from all public locations in the Lone Star Park grandstand facility. Depending on the nature of the emergency, directions may be altered. Please remain calm and follow the direction of Lone Star Park employees and security personnel. Patrons should never use elevators during an evacuation. Suite levels 5 and 6 have 3 stairwells that patrons should use to exit the building. 2 stairwells on either far end of the building and 1 next to the elevators. Look for the nearest exit sign, follow stairwell signage, and exit the building at track level. Silk's Dining has 5 stairwells that patrons should use to exit the building. 2 stairwells on either far end of the building that are accessible through either the Jockey Club or Paddock Lounge, and 3 centrally located stairwells near the elevators, escalators, and buffet. Look for the nearest exit sign, follow stairwell signage, and exit the building at track level. Level 2 has 5 stairwells that patrons should use to exit the building. 2 on either far end of the building that are accessible through the Ali Sheba room and in front of the far west side bathrooms, and 3 centrally located stairwells near the elevators, mustards, and feed sack. Look for the nearest